I'm just saying, anytime Sam Pittman says turn that dang jukebox on, my blood pressure just goes through the roof. All right, we have some first impressions from last weekend's game. I'm going to start with my guys. Defense ain't dead in the SEC. We were asking for it last weekend. This week, I feel like delivered. Every winner this weekend held their opponent to under 25 points. We wanted more defense. We got it. 25 takeaways across the SEC. I love to see it. RJ, what you got for your first impression?
It's absolutely that. I'm pretty sure Isaiah Spiller's really turned a corner here, right? Like last year, he had some good games, but against some of the dregs of the SEC and some of their out-of-conference opponents. But this year, the last two games against Florida and Mississippi State, he's been over 6 yards per carry. This young man has turned the corner, and this is a name to know. He will only get better from here.
Yeah, feral hogs, they're the biggest threat to American agriculture, and they're becoming one of the biggest threats in the SEC West. That's 2-2. That is 2-2, equaling last year's whole win total after a 33-21 win over Ole Miss. Take them seriously, or they'll be in your garden eating your stuff. Look at that graphic, y'all. We got a shark and we got a hog on a treadmill. Arkansas won 33-21 over Ole Miss. Again, this is a team that lost to San Jose State last year and only had 2 wins. They're currently at 500, and they're doing it not just with defense, but oh my Lord, look at Treylon Burks there. That is incredible. They had a guy with one arm catch an interception and return it for a pick six. I can't say that this makes any sense or that it'll keep working, but it worked against Ole Miss.
Yeah, it certainly did. Keep in mind, guys, last season, Arkansas had one of the worst defenses in the SEC, finishing in the bottom 2 in efficiency, takeaways, and third down defense. This year, the Razorbacks lead the conference with 13 takeaways and are second in the SEC in defensive efficiency, just behind Georgia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. And just know, when it comes to this show, when it comes to thinking out loud, anytime we can fit a yes, sir in the show.
Yes, sir.
Come on. Bring it on, big man.
We're going to do it. Brandon Boykin, I want to start with you. Another gutty, gritty, blue-collar defensive performance from this Arkansas team. What do you like about what you've seen from them?
Yes, sir. Hey, let's take a look at what Arkansas has done the past 3 weeks. They gave pretty much the whole SEC the blueprint on how to stop the air raid, right, and beat Mississippi State. The next week, they go into Auburn and pretty much take an Auburn team all the way to the bottom of the game and arguably win that game based on what Bo Nix did. And then the next week, they stop the Corral train and make him throw 6 interceptions. So I think it's time to put some respect on this Arkansas team's name and this Arkansas team's defense, because Barry Odom's got these boys playing with their heads on fire and they're getting to the ball fast.
Absolutely. Barry Odom deserves every penny for the way he's got that defense playing. They are clicking on all cylinders this season way earlier than anybody expected. This coaching staff is getting the most out of this talent quickly, and that is really, really good coaching. As far as the rest of the season goes, though, Arkansas right now, a little bit of house money playing with, right? They've only scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns in 1 game. I know they got screwed over a little bit against Auburn. It wasn't great. But this defense right now is scoring a touchdown in almost every single game. I don't know how long that is going to go on, but for now, it is truly one of the better stories in college football, the fact that Arkansas is 2-2 right now.
Absolutely. We're going to let Spencer put a little bit of a different spin on this with something I think I know. So, Spencer, take a crack at this for us.
Well, it's 4 weeks into the season, and I'm a scientist. I like to get my data. But I think I have enough to where I have a hypothesis, and I have at least one thing that I think I know at this point in 2020.
Oh, hey there, Arkansas. You caught me in my study, thinking about the one thing I think I know this week, which is that Arkansas is both good and crazy, and that's nothing but good for the SEC in 2020. Arkansas has always brought the crazy. I mean, from the top down. You've got noted billionaire crazy person Jerry Jones. He's one of yours. You've got 2 stadiums, not 1. That's how much you love football. And outside of one of those stadiums, you put the craziest thing in the SEC, which is like this 24-foot tall bronze statue of rampaging feral hogs. It's got its own mood lighting and fountains, just to make it fancy. Something for the kids. You once fired a coach the day after they lost to the Citadel, and you had that whole motorcycle accident thing. We don't have to talk about it, but that was crazy. The crazy's always been there, but being actually good at football, that's been hit or miss, especially over the last couple of years. But with Sam Pittman there, the idea of Arkansas being their usual colorful version of crazy and good, that's an idea so crazy that it just might work.
It's a proven fact. Saturdays are better when Arkansas is good. Brandon, what do you think about that?
Yes, sir.
I just can't. Yes, sir. I can't unsee that gold hog mural. That's like the most Arkansas thing I've ever seen. And yeah, that's all I really saw in that video.
30 to 50 feral hogs coming after you on Saturdays this fall.
I love it. Guys, one of the great stories from this past weekend was Hudson Clark, who's a freshman walk-on, came up with 2 interceptions in this win. Sam Pittman was on SEC this morning with a little bit of news for Mr. Hudson.
I called Hudson Clark last evening, asked him to come see me. We're out of scholarships right now at this day, but in January we're going to put him on scholarship. I think he's earned that, and we're awful happy to be able to do that. But he was happy and excited and probably thought in his mind it's about time.
Correction, he had 3 picks. Do not want to shortchange him one of those at all. Lane Kiffin got in on some of the fun on Twitter earlier today, guys, when Arkansas announced that they would be putting him on scholarship. Of course, they tweeted out the news, and Lane Kiffin quote tweeted it saying, "Happy we can help kids out at Razorback football. Congrats." So if Lane Kiffin, I love the guy so much. I hope Ole Miss fans can laugh at him, just not taking himself too seriously.
Yeah, Ole Miss gave plenty of gifts away on Saturday against Arkansas, and apparently they gave a scholarship away. That is high-level football from Ole Miss.
I just love Lane Kiffin, helping take credit for it. Yeah, we did that. Congrats, Hudson Clark, on your 3 interceptions. All right. You know the drill. I'm going to present you with a statement. If you like it, we save it. We hang on to it. We make sure you were right closer to the end of the season. If you don't like it, though, if you don't think it's going to happen, we put it in the shredder. Let's start with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas is the 2nd best team in the SEC West. Spencer, are we saving this or are we shredding it?
If it said coolest team in the SEC West, you could save it. That it does not say cool, though. Go ahead and shred it, because I'm pretty sure the 2nd best team in the SEC West at this point is Texas A&M. Do I enjoy them as much as I watch Arkansas just pull off miracle after miracles? Absolutely not. But they're probably a better football team at this point. So, go ahead, shred that.
All right, Richard, Brandon, what do we think? It's a free-for-all. Y'all just jump in.
I will also be shredding this quite hard.
Don't shred it yet. Don't shred it yet. Don't shred it yet. Look, 6 interceptions. They're hitting their stride right now. I think you need to save that because that defense is playing pretty well, and it's going to continue to get better. I'd save that, and I think that's a true statement.
Richard, you're really telling me that you are picking Texas A&M over the way this Arkansas team is playing right now. That's what you're telling me.
Absolutely. Of course the DB sees the interceptions and thinks they can replicate that every single week for the rest of the season. I'm not having it. Throw it in there.
All right, this is what we do when it's a split decision, and I'm with Brandon here. I like Arkansas right now at this moment in the season. I really do. I guess we have to keep the head,
hard not
the butt. So we're gonna shred half of this, and the shredder's not on, so that's fun. There we go. We will hang on to this part when Brandon and I come correct at the end of the season, and Arkansas is sitting behind Alabama in the SEC West standings. Plenty to talk about from the weekend. There was a pretty big game going down Saturday night, and this guy, Mr. Mac Jones, because of his performance, was selected as SEC Offensive Player of the Week after helping lead his Tide to a 41-24 win over Georgia. He completed 75% of his throws, including 4 touchdowns and 417 yards, which makes it his 3rd straight game with over 400 passing yards. How about co-defensive player of the week? Yeah, we have 2. Arkansas with yet another big win, this time over Ole Miss. It was senior linebacker Grant Morgan, co-SEC defensive player of the week. contributing with a career-high 19 tackles, a sack, 2 pass breakups, and a pick 6. Joining him, South Carolina corner J.C. Horn. He had his first career interception against Auburn on Saturday, and then he made it twice as nice with his second one. He also had 4 pass breakups in South Carolina's victory over Auburn. Here's a look at the rest of your weekly winners. Hudson Clark on that list.
The comeback of the week is supplemented by Aflac, who can help with expenses health insurance doesn't cover. Learn more at Aflac.com.
And the comeback of the week goes to Treylon Burke of Arkansas. What an amazing day, an amazing season for the Razorbacks so far. Look at that catch there. Razorbacks come back and they beat Auburn. Treylon, look at his numbers. First 3 games versus Saturday. He has had quite a month. Congratulations, Treylon Burke.
So the question is, what do we know? Roman, what do you know at this point of the season?
That Arkansas is a tough out, and that if you have to play them, if they're on your schedule, you're going to be sore. They are physical. They're going to hit you, and you're going to be lucky to get out of that game when you get back on the bus and say, hey, we either won that game and we need to get out of here, or we got the win. But Arkansas, to me, is a tough out, and I don't care who they play because they're so multiple defensively.
Man, Stench, I'm telling you, the offensive players were absolutely shining on Saturday with phenomenal catches like this one in Fayetteville. Treylon Burks in the corner of the end zone against Ole Miss.
Yeah, you think Arkansas missed this guy? He barely got to play versus Mississippi State, left early in the first quarter. He's just such a great playmaker for him. This fantastic body control right there in the corner of the end zone. And this is what the Arkansas Razorbacks needed. They've been muscling their way through their schedule, and now they're getting some playmaking ability.
Oh, yeah, the one-arm bandit right here. Everybody loves this guy. Grant Morgan, all he does is everything. 19 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack. That's like 3 games for most people. This guy showed up, and they beat Ole Miss like I called it. I'm so excited for this Arkansas football team going forward. All they do is make plays.
Yeah, his line was absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to call it a tie between offense and defense because I want both of you guys to like me. Go inside the SEC, presented by Auto Owners Insurance, as we bring in the Arkansas fifth-year senior linebacker.
Yes, sir.
Grant Morgan.
Yes, sir.
Does that Sam Pittman noise just... Does that just resonate in your head all the time, Grant? Do you hear that you lay your head down to bed, that's what you hear?
Oh, yeah. We love a good old yes, sir around here.
It is everywhere around here. Look, it just, when we see it, the first thing I think of is, oh, my goodness, you guys must be having fun. At least that's the way it looks before the game, during the game, after the game. What is it like with Sam Pittman and this staff right now, as a guy who's been in this program as long as you have?
Yeah, it's definitely fun to come to football. We every single day we wake up, we're ready to get back out there and go to work. It's a fun environment. We have fun going to work with the coaching staff, with the players that we're with. I couldn't be more proud of the guys right now, how they're attacking every single day. So it's just a fun environment. We love doing what we do.
Grant, did you think that at this point in the season you'd be sitting as the leading tackler in the Southeastern Conference?
I definitely think so. I think every single year these past years, I thought I could do it. And I think that's what made me resilient and made me just be able to keep going and just keep fighting for it, because I always knew in my head that I could do it. I've always been told I couldn't do stuff like that, and so it just made me drive even more, made me be able to keep pushing for it. And it's definitely not surprising to me, but I want to be able to be the leader at the end of the year as well. I want to be able to help our team win as many games as I can.
Co-defensive player of the week in this conference. I mean, I keep looking at your line. I don't know how many times you've looked at it. 19 tackles, interception, pick 6, sack, 3 tackles for loss. I don't know what you didn't do that day, but tell me this. Interception comes your way, late fourth quarter. You catch it, you're on the 23-yard line. What is your thought process as it relates to, I need to score here?
Whoever's in my way better get out of my way, because I'm going to score. That was the first thing I thought. Catch the ball and go score. Don't let anyone tackle you. Flashback of my offensive days in high school. So it was fun to get the ball in my hands and be able to go and do what I did.
Well, you get to flex on your brother too, right, Drew? He'd been in the end zone a couple of times.
Yeah.
Why not you get to participate? When you look at your fellow linebacker who did not get to play the other day, right, in Bumper Pool, have you considered a nickname change?
No, I haven't considered any nickname. But yeah, it was definitely. We had a lot of guys step up for Bumper, but he took on a different role that week, and he did really good coaching, and he made the team better. I'll say that.
Look, our guy Gene Chizik likes to say out here with us, playing defense does not have to be complicated. And he has referenced that he believes that your new defensive coordinator, Barry Odom, has simplified things for you. How accurate is that? And if so, how has he done that?
Yeah, our basis, to our defense is run and hit. And he always says defense is not hard. The game of football is not hard. You just run and hit the guy with the ball. So he's simplified it a lot for us. We've been able to just play fast, play physical, just the little bitty aspects that we've always been based around in football all these years. He's just made it to where we just go and do those great and just do it over and over again and never get satisfied with it. So run and hit's kind of our motto, and that's what we just continue to do every single play.
You've been around that program a while now, Grant, and you can look at a year ago. Y'all had 16 takeaways all season. You've got 13 takeaways already in week 4. What's the biggest difference year over year?
We're trying not to look back as much as we can on last year, just because this is a whole new program. This is a whole new coaching staff, new team. The way we're going about ourselves is different. But if I were to say just based on last year and this year, just our mindset to attack the game, mindset to attack the ball every single play. We emphasize it a lot in practice every single day, making those catches. If we drop balls on defense, we're getting punished pretty much too. And it's not from the coaches, it's from the players. It's a player-led team. We have a lot of guys stepping up, being leaders. So it's just carrying over into games, and it's really stepped up and just shown practice really matters.
So I'm not going to lie. As we were getting ready for the interview, our producer saw you and kind of moving your hands around, and he said to me, "Is that a wedding ring on Grant's finger?" So I had to look it up. You're married. I did not realize this. Your wife, Sydney. So what has been the biggest adjustment, okay, as from going to a dude who played on a football team for 4 years as an unmarried guy to a married guy that's playing college football at the level you're playing it at? Biggest adjustment?
Still giving her the time, even though I want it to be all football oriented. But I guess you could say that's my that's the reason I'm playing so good, I guess. But no, she's awesome. She pushes me harder than anybody out there right now. She was an athlete as well. She was the stud of the family, not me. So it's just fun to be able to spend these times with her and be able to celebrate these good times with her as well.
Well, you had to play injured the other day. They calling you the one-armed bandit, and you majored in kinesiology, right? You want to be a future doctor or a hospital administrator. Is that the future for you when you're done playing football?
Yeah, so I definitely want to play football as long as I can. If the NFL calls, I'd love to go to the NFL and play as long as I can, just because football is what I want to do. Football is exactly what I want to be doing for the rest of my life if I could. But in reality, I want to have my backup plan being an orthopedic surgeon. I can still be around sports. I can still have that same team camaraderie feeling. But I've always wanted to be that growing up. And I'm in my master's program now in business and operations management. And to be able to own a hospital one day, that would be great. And just be able to be in the administrative side as well. So, yeah, I guess you say that's a goal for me. But definitely when football's over, yeah.
Arkansas from the get-go. Stud linebacker, leading tackler, husband, future doctor. You got a lot on your plate, man. Whatever you're doing it right. We appreciate your time, Grant. It's good talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
What do you like about Hudson Clark?
What do I like about him?
What do you like about him?
No.
What do you love about him?
What do I love about Hudson Clark? First of all, he's got some sweet feet. And look, let's just be honest here. He's like finding the dinosaur, like bones. It's just not a lot of his types out there. You better put some respect on this man's name, Dari, just like the rest of everybody.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, you should. Just keep
6'2", 185. You don't see that?
No, not that much. Yeah, it's just what it is. Yeah, it's just what it is. Put some respect on the man's name, Dari. Stop throwing it at him.
I love it. Hey, all right, here's your West right now. Bama clearly looks to be the class of the entire conference, not just the West. I think there's a very valid question here, though, as to who's number 2. Roman, who is number 2? Who's the second best team? I say, Roman, who's the second best team in the West?
Yes, sir!
No, you're not going to.
Arkansas.
Yeah, really?
Arkansas. I can know the whole Pick Suey thing, no, but it's because of Sam Pittman and Barry Odom, what they're doing on that side. Arkansas is the toughest out right now in the SEC West outside of Alabama. Not Auburn, not LSU, not Ole Miss, not Mississippi State, not Texas A&M.
Can I clarify something? This is a team that in the last 3 seasons went 1-23 in conference play, and now you're calling them the second best team in the West.
No, not even a question.
Stinch, second best to you.
Yeah, I'm going to say Texas A&M. Arkansas is the best story. A&M's got the best win. And we'll find out in 2 weeks when A&M and Arkansas actually play one another, right? For Halloween, that's our treat, is we get to see who the second best team in the SEC West is. And then, Arkansas, they've still got a lot yet to prove, and they'll get their chance because A&M's already played Bama. They've already played Florida. Arkansas has yet to play either, but they will, and they'll get to do it after they face A&M. We should have a pretty clear picture by then.
Yeah, unlike Georgia and Florida, which I say in that order for you, Stench, since you're on the show with me, playing in Jacksonville, maintaining their neutral site location. A&M Arkansas will not play in Arlington. They will play in College Station this year, so a little bit of a difference there. All right.
Our Razorback fans needed this, to be honest with you. They wanted it so bad, and there's not any NFL or NBA or any pro sports in the area, so they're so excited, and it was just a blessing for us to be able to, our kids to go out there and play really hard, and coaches did a nice job of getting them prepared, and it was so much fun, both at Mississippi State and, of course, last week versus Ole Miss. We're just trying to take it one game at a time, and it's a 10-game SEC schedule. I mean, we only have LSU and Alabama and Florida and Texas A&M left, and of course Tennessee and Missouri. I mean, you can't get the big head around here because the next week someone's really, really good you have to play. I'm not a cliche guy. I'm not smart enough to have a good cliche. I just, to be honest with you, I speak from the heart, and I mean what I say, and I do what I say. And we talked about a piece of paper, and when we put it on a piece of paper, we're going to do it, whether it be good, bad, whatever. We're going to do whatever we put on a piece of paper, and the kids understand that, and they just needed somebody to believe in them and trust them and motivate them and show them that we cared about them. And I really have a really good staff of communicators, and really proud of our staff and of course our players. This statement's probably going to cost me a little bit of money one of these days, but this is it for me. I'm not interested in any other program. Arkansas is truly the greatest program in America to me. I grew up 75 miles from here. I have a lake home on Lake Hamilton in Hot Springs. My wife's from Pittsburgh, Kansas, and we're home, and this is where we want to be, and this will be my last job.
Yes, sir!
I did. One of the recruiting guys came in. He said, "You got to do your yes, sir." And I said, "I'm not going to do that. That looks stupid, I'm not going to do that." And so he taught me into it, and I did it. And then it caught on with the Georgia fans. And then so every time we'd get a big-time offensive line recruit, I'd put some stupid video out, and yes, sir. The kids liked it, Some of the fans thought I was a weirdo and all that, which, I get it. But the kids liked it, and as long as they liked it, I'd yes, sir, until they, didn't like it. So that's where it started, and then it came here, obviously, at Arkansas.
As for Ole Miss, after averaging almost 42 points a game in the first 3, the Lane train came off the rails last week against Woo Pig, scoring a season-low 21 points and committing a season-high 7 turnovers after having committed just 1 in their first 3 games. So, guys, Chizik, what happened to the Rebels offensively last week?
If you're looking to see why Arkansas's defense is number 1 in the league in takeaways, interceptions, and pass efficiency defense, you don't have to look any further than the Ole Miss game. CD, defense is built on execution and physicality, and Arkansas is doing it as good as anybody in the business. Let's start out right now and let's look at this. I want you to see, is this going to be an RPO? But I want you to notice the alignment of the wideout and all this space he's creating on the inside. And the safety right here, Jalen Catalon, he feels it. He knows it. He knows something's up. He's thinking something's going to come back to the inside. Well, they're going to run a little RPO action, and he's going to bend that in there about 7 yards, trying to get the safety to get jittery and bite up. Watch as the play action comes right there with the RPO. Look at the safety, CD. He hasn't gone anywhere. Yeah. He's bouncing because he's expecting something to come back to the middle of the field. Watch the break on the ball. Bang! Elijah Moore, early in the game, that's a message he sent.
Not a good feeling for a receiver, feeling that safety driving on the slant route.
Again, well-coached teams anticipate. This formation right now with a cut-down split tells something to the defense. This is an alert for a bootleg. What is a bootleg? A bootleg is an over route by the cut-down split of the wideout, and it's an under route by the tight end. They're going to play action fake this way, and the quarterback is going to boot out. Now, I love how the safeties play at CD. They bait them up. Again, it's Jalen Catalon. As this thing unfolds, watch the safeties. Here comes the play action. Here comes the over route. And their job on this, CD, is to bait this route up and steal it. Right now, Matt Corral thinks that's the only defender he's got to beat. This backside safety rolls to the half. Watch it. Boom. Great anticipation. Matt Corral never sees it. 6 points for the defense.
Jalen Catalon's playing really well, especially for being a freshman. But as much as you'd like to think that there's a perfect defense, there's no such thing. Every defense has a susceptibility. Well, unfortunately for Ole Miss, they didn't necessarily take care of the advantage of the things that were there the other day. Arkansas is going to drop into eight-man coverage. That means you have 3 guys rushing and 5 guys to protect. Matt Corral feels like he's going to be all right to maybe take a shot down the field. He's going to have some time to do so. But as we run the play, let's watch it unfold. Arkansas basically drops into coverage. They got a wall right here at the line to gain. And you got a guy wide open out here in the flat. That's your check down. You know, this is the guy you get the ball to. Unfortunately, the 5 that are protecting Matt Corral don't do a great job. He gets sacked, and instead of throwing the ball to the outlet, he takes a 12-yard sack. Now they're in 2nd and 22. It's tough to come back from that. Now,
can't do that.
In this situation, we're going to flood the left side of the field. We're going to run levels. So basically, this guy's going to come across in motion. You're going to have the tight end run a bench route. You're going to have a deep pylon by the outside receiver. And you're going to have the check down out again here. That's 3 different levels trying to flood the left side and make that defense make a choice. As we play the play.
Here comes the motion.
Let me run it a little further for you, Chiz. There's nothing there, right? You got a defender playing both right now. You got an underneath defender here. You got pressure coming in your face, but you know what? There's your check down. Take your outlet pass, get the ball out of your hand, you get the first down, at least, and probably a lot more. He takes a bad play and makes it worse by forcing it, trying to take the big play when it's not there, Chiz.
Yeah, that's what young guys do sometimes, but he'll learn from this big time going into this week, CD.
No doubt about it. He better learn. It was a painful lesson, but I expect him to be better this week against Auburn's defense.
Oh, the value of an assistant coach. We spend a lot of time on Fridays and Saturdays talking about the assistants in the SEC that have made incredible strides with the units that they coach. So now, who are the top assistants this year to this point? We asked you each for your top 4. Who's in yours?
Look at Barry Odom, guys. We say him every week.
Yeah.
Every week we see this Arkansas defense get better and better, right? 6 picks, 2 pick sixes last week, and a huge upset against Ole Miss.
At number 2, it's Barry Odom. I agree with you. The assignment and alignment soundness has these kids playing physically and having a lot of fun out there with some success. Well, my next guy is Jalen Catalon. You already took your turn giving him a bunch of praise. I'm going to do it now. This guy is averaging over 11 tackles per game. He's 2nd in the conference right now. You showed last week the pick 6 that he had. He's coming up, filling against the run. He's physical against the pass. He makes receivers think about going over the middle of the field. And it's hard to believe that he's playing as well as he is, and he's still just a freshman right now.
Yeah, and he's the size of a corner. He's got corner skills, actually. He's not your big 6'2", 215-pound safety. He's about 5'11". He's right around 200 pounds. But he shows corner skills, and he's got great anticipation for a DB.
A big get out of the state of Texas, too. Arkansas's got to get those Texas kids like that one there. All right, who else? Freshman-wise. I mean, if the blueprint was laid by Arkansas, then the Rebels have to come up with some way to counter it. Let's say they are able to get the win against Auburn. What's the statement they make?
I think the statement is really last week was the exception and not the rule. And again, I'm going back. If they're going to beat Auburn, it's because they scored a lot of points. Let's just be honest, right? They're going to have to outscore Auburn's offense. Their defense isn't great. So Auburn, if they're going to win, they're going to have to score a lot of points. So if Ole Miss is able to pull this off, CD, you can really look at last week, because the big question for everybody right now is the recipe out there for every defense to manhandle this offense like Arkansas did? So this is going to be really interesting, and that would be the statement. Last week is the exception. It's not the rule.
It's amazing, again, in this 2020 season, how perception changes. Just 2 weeks ago, everybody was fired up as they're rolling up almost 50 points against that Alabama defense. Now people think they figured it out. I believe that Matt Corral is a really good quarterback in this league. I believe, as I said earlier, Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin, these guys are going to have a great plan for what they're going to go and make improvements on what issues they had last week against that Arkansas defense.
That is the noon Eastern game.
Now let's go back to Auburn and Ole Miss game coming up in just a few minutes.
I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Ole Miss, they had some turnovers last week. That offense has been clicking. You know, War Eagles a great team, but
nice.
I think Ole Miss is ready to get over today.
Vince Vaughn, my man, you own it, boss. I got Ole Miss too. I don't like what's going on right now with Auburn and infighting. I'm going with the Rebels, even though they can't play defense.
I'm going to Auburn. I think
there we go. Save the day.
I think that offense is going to look a lot better today.
Yeah.
I think they're going to find their way a little bit. I think
they will.
I think Auburn's defense matches up better against this kind of offense. And I don't know what kind of idiot talked about Matt Corral last week being a really hard guy to defend. I don't know what idiot.
I didn't stick it to you about that either. No.
If you would have picked Ole Miss, it would have been all these Ole Misses down there. I'm glad you picked Auburn. So now I go back to Ole Miss. I'm with Des. And Vince, I think Ole Miss. They were embarrassed last week. Auburn is struggling, and I know Ole Miss defense isn't great, Coach, but until Auburn figures some things out internally, they're going to be a challenge every week that they play. Give me Ole Miss.
Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Auburn finally fixes turnovers and mistakes and wins by a touchdown and covers the spread. How about that one?
Wow.
It is interesting, too. If you're Matt Corral, Lane Kiffin left you in for all those picks, so he must have some confidence in you as well. All right, nearly half the conference is off this week. Arkansas and Texas A&M will meet Halloween night in College Station. Vanderbilt and Florida both off for the second straight week. That's the longest gap between regular season games in the SEC since 2001.
Okay, before we get started, I'm going to need some background music. Coach?
Turn that damn jukebox!
1 year ago in the SEC, we were singing Calling Baton Rouge, but this year we're calling the Hogs. And it turns out there's about 100 different ways to do that.
Hey, let's call the Hogs! I want to call the damn Hogs as a team.
That's right. The SEC is going hog wild, thanks to the arrival of the new boss hog, Sam Pittman.
Yes, sir!
A team that hadn't won an SEC game in 1,071 days is now making bacon, with 2 conference wins in their last 3 games. And honestly, they should have won all 3.
It looks like it was a fumble.
Sorry, too soon?
Yes, sir!
How have they done it? By digging in their hooves and looting opponents out of the trough. Did you see the first half of the Georgia game? Or their grounding of the air raid? Or how about that effort against Ole Miss? Grant Morgan had 19 tackles and a pick 6. Walk-on Hudson Clark had 3 interceptions. So he's no longer a walk-on. I mean, that's some piggish D, right?
Yes, sir!
From hollering head coaches to extra spicy social media posts, this fine swine story isn't going to market anytime soon, thanks to a schedule one can really sink their tusks into. A 6-game run that begins on Halloween against old Southwest Conference rival Texas A&M. Includes a couple of homecomings for Felipe Franks in Gainesville and Barry Odom at Mizzou, and ends in December with a regular season finale visit from Alabama. No, it's not the Iron Bowl. but it might be more important because it might very well be for the SEC West title. So, would we call that living high off the hog?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to spare everybody here, and we are not going to do the yes, sir, no matter how tempting it actually is. But I do want to let you know we were trying to get Sam Pittman on the show this morning, and
we can do
technology
it.
did not work. Tim, go ahead then. Do it
Can
right
I get
now.
in too? I want some
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yes, sir. I want it too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm glad we did that. Anyway, we were trying to get Sam Pittman on the show, and he was not able to come through based on technology that was on our end, so we are so sorry about that, but we will get him to join us. And it really has been impressive what this Arkansas team has done under his tutelage. Tim, when you think about a new coach coming in and the fit for the coach and all the things that you look at, one of the things that may be the hardest to do early on is the implementation of physicality. And that's what we've seen from this Arkansas team. Sam Pittman just imposing his identity on this team. Why has that worked so well?
Well, yeah, because they focus on two things, right? One of them is fundamentals, and the other is their identity. They've locked into their fundamentals. If you watch the way this front seven plays, they play up front. They play so well with their hands. Their linebackers attack. And they're locked in on their fundamentals and their placement. If you look at the way they run their 3-4, 34 double cloud with their outside linebackers, they're in perfect placement every time. They put Matt Corral in such a difficult place of whether he is giving the RPO, whether he is throwing it. They were in that exact no man's land where they were making him hesitate. They weren't hesitating at a defense. That's how they played this whole year. Even against Georgia, even when they've been outmatched, they haven't hesitated. They've been focused. They've had a great identity. They know what they're going after, how they're trying to attack, and they're following his mentality. And I love the way they play so far.
Tim, everything you just explained is a direct result of Sam Pittman hiring extraordinary coordinators around him, right? That's what the best head coaches do. That's what the most successful do. So mark it in right now. Sam Pittman is the coach of the year, in my opinion. And mark it down right now. I think Barry Odom is the assistant of the year. There's a reason there's early voting, right? Not much is going to change your mind between now and November 3rd, just like not much is going to change my mind between now and December 5th or December 12th or whenever this season wraps. The job that he has done to, like we mentioned, change the mentality of this football team, but also put talent around him on the coaching staff that does that as well and implement scheme that is second to none. Not much of this roster changed, but last year they were the 110th ranked defense in the country. Let me remind you, that means not many teams were worse than Arkansas, and last week they just held probably one of the best two offenses in the SEC to 21 points. This is unbelievable, the job that Sam Pittman has done. I can't give him enough credit.
Yeah, Roman, I'm pulling up Arkansas's schedule here, and you heard Ryan McGee reference it, but they're going to A&M on Halloween. Oh, wait, that's so good, you guys. Thank you for that. There we go. Here's the Razorback schedule. So at A&M, that's coming up. Then they got Tennessee, then at Florida. That's a homecoming for Felipe Franks. Then they'll host LSU. They go to Missouri and then host Alabama. So some of the schedule can look a little favorable. As you look at that, what do you think about Arkansas? Are they a real contender in the SEC West, Roman?
Yes, they are. The games that I think they can win all of those games, and I think the struggle game is going to be at Florida for them because it's on the road, and we all know how explosive Florida's offense is. And Arkansas at times has looked really good on offense and great on defense, but then at times offensively they look really bad and kind of shaky. So it's really hard to keep up with a team like Florida. And of course, Alabama, that's always just going to be a tough road. And for Jordan to say that Sam Pittman is already coach of the year in the SEC, I'm the biggest Arkansas fan there is. But you can't sit up here and say Mac Jones is going to be the Heisman winner and give all the Mac Jones is better than Tua, and then not say Nick Saban has nothing to do with that. It's just a little far-fetched, Jordan. I got to call you on that.
Tell him, Tim.
Roman,
Tell him.
Did you just say they could win all of those games?
Yes, besides Florida and Alabama, I definitely think they could. Texas A&M is overrated. They're not going to be able to run the ball on against Arkansas's defense like they did against everybody.
You just said Texas A&M has a chance to go to the playoff.
Yeah, if they beat Arkansas, but Arkansas is going to make it tough on everybody. You know that.
Tim, what do you think about Arkansas's remaining schedule?
Arkansas will be competitive in the. I think it's difficult.
Put it on the wall, Tim.
I agree. I like this Arkansas team. I love what they're doing. They're improving. Arkansas is not going to run the table. They're not going to run the table. Listen, I love the job they're doing. I agree. If I had to vote right now, I would be voting these coaching staff as one of the best jobs in the country. But they are not running the table. Not this year. They're getting better, but...
Listen, they've already surprised.
What has changed? What has changed is now that they are competitive in all those games. Right now, we don't look at those games and go, they don't have a chance.
That's right.
But I agree. I don't know if they're going to run the table, but they're going to be competitive in all those.
And they should have had one more win than they did have. All right, let's take a look at the smoothest play brought to you by Velveeta. And making just his second start, redshirt freshman Hudson Clark had a game that would have made anyone's career last week against Ole Miss. Check out the Arkansas DB. He finished with not one, not two, but 3 interceptions in the Razorbacks' 33-21 win. And only one Razorback has had more interceptions in a game, and that was back in 1929. So get it, Hudson Clark. Impressive. In the past 5 seasons, only 2 other SEC players have had 3 interceptions in a conference game. So Minkah Fitzpatrick was one of them in 2016. It was impressive by Hudson Clark. We'll see what he has in store against Kellen Mond and Texas A&M on Halloween. Jordan Rogers, tell us about your top defenses, top 5 defenses in the SEC.
Well, I'm an offensive guy, so this pains me to do, but let's go through it. At number 5, I got Arkansas. They just held the second best SEC offense to 21 points. Are you kidding me? And Barry Odom is doing a better job than anybody. They were the first ones to really unlock the plan against the Mississippi State air raid back when that was a thing. So I love this Arkansas defense. They're opportunistic, the 6 interceptions, and oh, mind you, I said it earlier, they were the 110th ranked defense in the country last year. They've made a big leap.
Roman, you got any gripes with this list?
Yes, I do, Laura. I appreciate you asking me. Thank you. Number 1, all right, I would move Alabama down to number 3. I'd put Arkansas up in front because they played really good defense every game. You got Kentucky in front of them. They've only played great defense the last 2 weeks. And Mississippi State, I need to move them down a little bit more, too. They just don't cause enough turnovers consistently.
Roman. SEC championship, you can't pick Georgia, but you have the next pick of a defense. You're telling me you're taking Arkansas over Alabama in the SEC championship if you had a pick of defense. No
do
way.
I get Alabama's offense to go with Arkansas's defense?
Doesn't matter. We're talking defense, baby. You're a defensive guy. You don't get to talk offense.
The good thing is we will get to see Arkansas against Alabama's offense later on in the season.
I just remember the last 2. I mean, I remember when Johnny Manziel came in here and he was running all over the place. And then we sent it to Dallas, and I remember the 2 games. I think both of them went into overtime, if I'm correct, or I think we were ahead most of the game in both those and then got beat late. I believe it was both in overtime, but it was a great atmosphere in Mr. Jones' stadium, and I've been to College Station before, but it's been a while, so I know they have a great place over there. But just remember the disappointment of losing those 2 close games. I just thought we had really good mental work, mental preparation on A&M, on our game plan, on what we're going to try to get accomplished. I really like the plan on all 3 sides of the ball and all three different areas of the game, and went back and reviewed it again, and I'm real happy with the plan that we have, and we're going to start a regular week here now and have a Monday practice and those things, so we'll see it a little bit more in action with some pads on today. Well, location-wise, A&M would recruit a lot of the same players that we do, or vice versa, however you want to say it. Obviously, they have great facilities and a very fine football staff, and so we had to recruit against them, obviously, quite often. And they're a physical football team on both sides of the ball. They're an SEC football team on the offensive and defensive lines. Very big, very powerful, fast. Have a lot of returning starters on the offensive side of the ball on the O-line. And They've got a great back in Spiller, who is also a very physical guy. When you look at him and watch him play, you see a big, physical SEC-type football team.
So many conversations have emanated in relation to Sam Pittman over these last couple of weeks. So we thought we would go back to the man who brought Sam Pittman to Arkansas and the SEC right now. He is Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director at the University of Arkansas. Hunter, thanks for coming back. We hope you're well. And from the looks of things, it's been a pretty good fall so far in Fayetteville. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for having me on. And except for the 40 degrees and raining here in Fayetteville right now, it has been a great fall for Razorback fans for sure.
Yeah, well, that comes unfortunately a little too early, but Coach Pittman has really been the talk of the SEC, and I know this is old material, and we've even discussed it, but I get so many questions about his hiring, and I just watched it from a distance. I'm really curious, as you were going through the changes out there, and you made the change, and then you began to look for the next coach. How did you come up with Sam Pittman?
Well, obviously Sam Pittman had been here, Paul, for 3 years as an offensive line coach, and when the opening occurred, had several of his former players and constituents around the state that reached out and put Sam on my radar screen. And I had a longer runway to conduct this search, and as I kind of evaluated our other coaches, head coaches here at the University of Arkansas that had been successful, one of the qualities that stretched across all of them is they wanted to be at the University of Arkansas. They were excited to be at the University of Arkansas, and they were Razorbacks through and through. And that's one thing you can surely say about Sam Pittman is he wanted to be the head coach at the University of Arkansas.
And you understand this. You've made some very good hires over the years, but there's a so-called looking at the hot list, getting the coach that won the big game the year before, that won 10 or 11, or getting someone who really does fit the program. And I know you were not involved in the prior search, but what was there about Sam, other than the obvious, his likability and his background there, that convinced you that he was going to be the right choice? Because you had a few choices, to say the least.
Sure. When you look at the things that the Arkansas Razorback football program needed the most, we needed to get better up front on both the offensive and defensive line. Sam Pittman checks that box. We need to be a little bit better in the recruiting process and the evaluation of talent. Sam Pittman checks that box. And we needed somebody that the players were really going to love and enjoy playing for and enjoy playing football again. And Sam Pittman checked that box. And finally, as I mentioned before, Sam Pittman wanted to be the head football coach at the University of Arkansas. And I think that may have been the biggest determining factor. He was not scared by the challenge of taking over a program that had consecutive 2-10 seasons, that had lost 20 consecutive SEC football games. He embraced that challenge and wanted to be the leader as we went through that challenge in rebuilding our football program.
Talking to Hunter Yurachek, Hunter, as you have watched this season unfold, a lot of us were surprised, obviously, to see what he was able to accomplish. And I know that he has told us he expected to win. All competitive coaches do that. You understand intercollegiate athletics. What has been your reaction?
Well, obviously the way we have played, I don't know that it's been surprising when I watched us practice this August and saw the belief that the young men that are a part of our program had, and the belief in themselves, the belief in our coaching staff that they were being put in the position to win football games and to be successful on the football field. And I don't know if that was necessarily the case over the past 2 years as I watched our football program. So, Sam Pittman tells me every week he expects to win. He expected to win the Georgia game. He expected to win the Auburn game. He expects to win this weekend. We were kind of joking about our schedule next year, and he said, well, we're going to win that Texas game as well. And I said, well, let's just worry about Texas A&M this week before we worry about Texas next season. Sam Pittman truly expects to win every football game, and he's preparing our team to win every football game.
I realize Sam Pittman makes the hiring decisions. You hire the coaches, they hire their assistants, but I would like to get your thoughts on Barry Odom, who many have credited. Many have credited Sam Pittman with one of the great hires of the offseason. Your thoughts?
Well, I thought it was really great during the process to hire Sam, that his self-reflection, and one of the things he told me, he said, Hunter, you know this, I know this, I've never been a head coach. He said, I have to hire a coordinator that has had head coaching experience that can help me navigate being a first-time head coach. And Barry Odom was at the top of his list on the defensive side. Him and Barry were close. They're even closer. You can see them walking around our campus each and every day of the week, obviously 6 feet apart right now. But, Barry has been an invaluable resource for Sam, first and foremost, as a first-time head coach. And obviously Barry's been unbelievable for our program on the defensive side of the ball, and the plans he's put in place for each and every game for our student athletes to be successful on the field.
Talking to Hunter Yurachek, Hunter, we've had a lot of conversations going back to early spring about trying to get this season underway, and you have been very steadfast in your desire to make sure we have a season and can do it safely. We are inching toward the midpoint of, we are at the midpoint of the SEC season right now. I'd like to get your reflection on how it's gone and the challenges you've encountered and what's ahead.
Paul, I think you look across the board, especially within the Southeastern Conference, as we were able to get off to a great start with 3 weeks in a row where all 14 teams played. We had a little bit of a hiccup during this past week, had to reschedule some games, postpone a game here and there, but I think it's been a success so far. We don't play another game this season has been a success because our student athletes have been able to take the field and do what they love. But the fact is, we're going to play more football games this year. You saw, obviously the Big Ten kicked off this weekend, the Pac-12 here in a couple of weeks, and all of those conferences that had backed out of playing have joined the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 and the American and Conference USA, and those of us that continue to forge ahead and push forward. And so this football season, I think there's been 3 times as many games played as been canceled, and we all knew moving forward that there were going to be some hiccups and some bumps in the road, but it has been a success.
In terms of looking at the success or failure of the season, you just said something so interesting, and I hear fans belly aching. You hear more than I do, but we are pretty fortunate to have gotten where we are when you realize the headwinds. How do you alter the definition of success of your individual program in this sport or any sport for that matter when you consider the challenges that it has taken to get to where we are?
Well, first and foremost, I think that the number one definition of success is the health and safety and well-being of our student athletes, our coaches, and all of our staff involved directly on a day-to-day basis with each of our sports programs. And to date, that's been at the forefront, and everybody has been safe and had great health and well-being. And yes, there have been positive COVID cases, but for the most part, at least I can speak for our program, those positive tests that we've had within our program, the symptoms for the majority of those student athletes have been mild. None have been in the hospitals, no sign of heart disease, and those post-COVID testing of their cardiac area. And so, the first and foremost, the number one indicator of success is the health and safety and well-being of each and every one of our student athletes, not only here at the University of Arkansas, but across this country, playing football, soccer, volleyball, running cross country, and then soon when men's and women's basketball and our winter sports join us.
And I want to ask you about that because very few places in this land where basketball is more beloved than Northwest Arkansas. There's been a lot of conversation about how basketball is going to look. In the past, it's been a little bit early to get a good gauge of that. What's it look like where you are right now?
It'll look very similar, Paul, to football as far as the fans go. I mean, we have a 20,000 seat arena. We're making accommodations right now for social distancing within Bud Walton Arena. We think we can get somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 4,500 fans. Our benches will be set up similar to what you saw in the NBA bubble with the benches, chairs all 6 feet apart. So it's going to look different. just like football has looked different, but we're going to play basketball in the Southeastern Conference in many places across our country, and we're going to be successful with basketball just like we have been in football, because we're going to continue to forge ahead. Now, it's the first indoor sport other than volleyball that will really be played, so that will present some challenges, and it'll be played during the winter months. And so we've got to kind of maintain our focus, and I talk to our coaches and our student athletes on a regular basis that we can't take our eye off the end goal, which is playing games.
Hunter Yurachek, who's done such an extraordinary job as the Director of Athletics at the University of Arkansas. Hunter, thank you so much for making time. We always appreciate it. You be well.
Paul, thank you. Great to be on again.
Thank you very much. What a fantastic conversation. And that hiring of Sam Pittman, which raised more eyebrows than any hire in the offseason. Sam Pittman is getting early consideration for SEC Coach of the Year, and we're not even at the midpoint.
Went on the road, but had a lot of fundamental work we worked on last week, just getting better in drills and working a lot of our younger players, keep developing more depth on our team, and also worked on future opponents and some of Arkansas and other future opponents, things in which teams do, which we implemented some schemes to, at least when the guys see it for the first time during game week down the stretch, it won't be totally new, which helps in your retention and learning things. So we worked on future opponents, worked on Arkansas, and also worked on ourselves, which was the big part of the off week, and trying to develop our older guys to clean things up and our young guys to keep developing. So had a good hard week. Guys practiced very hard. I think they compete extremely hard. I think they play well together as a team, offense, defense. They complement each other, special teams. They're creating a lot of turnovers on defense. I believe they've created 13, if I'm not mistaken, taking advantage of those, advantages in some special team areas, and have been very opportunistic as a football team and play extremely hard, physical, very well coached, and play together extremely well.
Let's go to Brent Zorneman from the Houston Chronicle.
Coach, a lot of younger Aggies might not even remember this game being played anywhere but Arlington. Do you like it being on campus, or do you have a preference there?
Well, we'll find out. No,
Right.
I mean, it's great. Anytime you play in Kyle Field is great. We want to play in Kyle Field, but it was a good opportunity, too, sometimes that you went up to Arkansas and played in front of your home fans. I mean, he had a great venue. It wasn't like that was a bad venue. So, I mean, but anytime you can play in Kyle Field, that's a great thing. And, we'll try to take advantage of that this weekend in what we do. But it was one of the unique things of having a rivalry in between, and you have those things. And sometimes that's good for your team. Like if you play bowl games, learn to play neutral site games and things like that. It's almost not, it's not a home game or it's not an away game. But at the same time, again, I keep going back. When you can play here at home, it's a great thing. And Arkansas and A&M have played for so many years. They know each other so well, and it means a lot to the alums and everybody else that it becomes that game. And I've been almost every league I've ever been in, I've had those. I mean, NC State and Florida State was always like that. No matter what, it was always a battle. I remember when I was at LSU, Kentucky, we beat Kentucky 1 year, 2 years in a row on the last play. 1 year we won the SEC in that year. I mean, it was just, I just off the top of my head, there's been in every one I've ever been in. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Now our friend Owen Buchanan joins us from TexAgs to talk about the Aggies who were really facing a critical situation against Florida. Seemed like a year ago. They won that game, and now Arkansas coming to town. Owen, great to have you on. I think we've eliminated it's important and critical that Jimbo Fisher has to win now. That win over Florida has calmed everyone down, right?
Yeah, it did. I think the narrative was, well, when is he going to finally get a top 5 win? Well, he got that, and after that win, then it becomes, well, how good can this team be? And what are the possibilities? Because they're one of, I think, A&M and Alabama are the only teams in the country right now that have wins over teams that are currently in the top 10. So then the thought is, well, if they could finish 9-1, and I think that's asking a lot, maybe they can get in the playoff.
It's funny, Owen, I've already had about 3 calls this week asking me that question, so I'm going to turn it around. You brought it up. Let's take a look at the Aggies right now and what's left. I mean, they've already faced the number 1 team in the country. They face a top 5 team in Florida. They were number 4 at the time. Arkansas this week at South Carolina, a mystery team, at Tennessee, another enigma. Ole Miss, which finds new ways to lose every week. LSU, which could be dangerous, and Auburn, which is always unpredictable but difficult at home. So of those remaining games, who would concern you the most?
Probably LSU, Auburn. Arkansas A&M has always had close games with Arkansas teams that weren't as good as this one. I think with A&M, you look at it, and they may even be favored in every game. I don't know, but I think you can look at A&M and say, they're good enough to beat every team on their schedule, but they're not good enough to take any win for granted. So, they always have close games against South Carolina. So I think that they're good enough to feel like they have a shot at 9-1, but realistically, you're asking a team with very little margin for error to run the table, and maybe the feeling will be different in a couple of weeks if they beat Arkansas and if they beat South Carolina. But I think if you look at it right now, again, you're asking a team that's pretty good, but not dominant to run the table, and I just think that's asking a lot right now.
The fact it's even being discussed, I think, may be asking a lot, Owen, considering 5 weeks ago we were watching the Vanderbilt game going, is this team going to win a game this year?
Yeah, that's true, but I think when you look at just the way things were this year with all the COVID and everything, and the way things were interrupted, A&M didn't play well, obviously, in the first game. Georgia didn't play well, didn't start well anyway. So there's been a lot of crazy things happen this year. I thought A&M actually played pretty well against Alabama, considering who they were going against, and then played very well against Florida, and I thought played well against Mississippi State. Could have been better, but they always had trouble in Starkville, so to get out of there with a win was definitely a sign of progress. It did look kind of bleak after the Vanderbilt game. You wondered, because A&M had been looking forward to this season for a long time. Feel like this is a year that they could be contenders, and then the way they started, you started to doubt that. But they've rebounded nicely.
Owen, I know what the narrative was going in, and then it changed, and there were a number of opt-outs, but what is the reason why Aggie fans are just raging now with optimism?
Well, I think it's because you do have the two best teams on your schedule behind you. You got that win over Florida, and you feel like if you beat Florida, you should be able to beat anybody. And it's a young team. If you look at the A&M roster and the starting lineup, you'll see a few freshmen and a lot of sophomores. And the feeling is that they haven't played their best football yet. The pass rush kind of finally surfaced in the Mississippi State game. They had 6 sacks. Isaiah Spiller's running the ball extremely well. They've had some injuries at receiver, and that's a concern. But the offensive line has played really well, and Kellen Mond has showed what he's capable of, and I think if he can avoid that game with where he's had a tendency to turn the ball over, but if he can avoid that a game with massive turnovers, then again I think they feel like they can go into to every game left with not just a good chance to win, but a lot of them they probably should win. Doesn't mean they will, but probably should.
Oh, and before you go, I want to talk about this game this weekend because I watch it every year. I basically just tune in for the fourth quarter because that's when it always seems to go at the Aggies' way. Arkansas has a great shot, and it comes up short or something bizarre happens. But yeah, we know the history of these schools being in the Southwest, but this game really seems bitter on the Arkansas side. Is it the same way on the Aggies side?
Well, the Aggies sure like to beat Arkansas. There's no doubt about that. There is some history. Now, I don't know that if you ask the Aggies who they want to beat the most, since they don't play Texas anymore, they probably say LSU. But Arkansas is still high on the list, and I think they recruit the same players, just like, it's very common now, but, going back, historically, a lot of players from Texas go to Arkansas. So I just think that, border schools and things like that, it's with some history, I think it means more to Arkansas right now because they've been losing. I can tell you when the roles were reversed, it meant a whole lot to Texas A&M.
Your thoughts on the game?
I think A&M probably is the better team, probably should win if they can take care of the ball. We've all seen what Arkansas has done with the 10 interceptions, 3 pick sixes. They had 9 interceptions in their 2 wins. So if A&M can avoid the turnovers, I think they should be able to run well on Arkansas. But to ask A&M to avoid the turnovers against Arkansas is a pretty big ask because one of the reasons those games are so close and go into the fourth quarter has been that A&M's tendency to turn the ball over, so or miss key field goals and things like that. So I see the line and it's like 11 points or something like that, but I kind of expect it to be close like it always is. Like I said, I've seen worse Arkansas teams really give A&M a hard time, and I think under Sam Pittman it looks like Arkansas is not doing things to beat themselves, and that was almost something you could count on the last few years when you're playing the Razorbacks.
Greg, I want to get your thoughts on Texas A&M because, after the win against Florida, a lot of people have reevaluated them. They get Arkansas this week, which we all know is an amazing story. Arkansas fans are optimistic. They should be. They're having a great run. But what about A&M? How good are they?
I think they're really good, Paul. And it's because of who their identity is. Like, I remember saying I'm watching them against Florida, and we're doing the game, and I remember thinking to myself, I think I actually said it in the broadcast, like, A&M found an identity. Like, hallelujah. Like, this is who we want A&M to be. I want Jimbo Fisher and that offensive line, a veteran group, to impose their will against the opposition. And they kind of weren't able to do that in the first 2 weeks against Alabama and obviously against Vanderbilt. But my goodness, there was like a light switch that went on against Florida, and all of a sudden this team wants to punch you in the mouth in the trenches. And that's SEC football. Now, I know it's become RPO, it's become high scoring, it's become all these other things that we've seen that's matriculated their way into the Southeastern Conference. But ultimately, at our core as a league, it's about the line of scrimmage. And right now, Texas A&M, along with Alabama, and I think to a certain extent Georgia, have done a fantastic job of controlling the line of scrimmage. So A&M, they're a team that wants to run the football. They have 2 excellent running backs that they want to get involved. And Kellen Mond is as accurate as he's ever been in his career, especially pushing the ball down the field against Florida. So I think they're legit. I really do. And I expect them, too, to be a team that gets better and better and better as the season goes along. Because when you look at their personnel on the defensive side of the football, shockingly enough, they're actually really young. So I'm very optimistic and bullish on what A&M's shown us to this point and think the best might be yet to come for the Aggies in the upcoming games.
What if a second SEC team could somehow work its way into the college football playoff, assuming Bama's one of the first one or the first one? What if it's Texas A&M? Yep. Could it be a one-loss Aggies team? Brad Edwards with the Numbers Crunch.
If, as Bill Parcells once said, you are what your record says you are, then what do we make of Texas A&M at 3-1?
Pressure coming, throws across the middle. Should have been a first down to Smith, and he dropped it.
Drop ball for a first down. That's just like a turnover.
The snap is good, the kick is up, and the fighting Texas Aggies, a top 5 win. Let the celebration begin here at Kyle Field.
The Aggies have lost to the best team in the SEC, beaten 2 of the weaker teams in the league, and came out on the right side of their one true toss-up game. According to FPI, they have the nation's 24th best offense, 31st best defense, and are overall the 20th best team. A much different evaluation than the AP poll. But the bigger question right now is whether A&M can win out and put itself in position for college football playoff consideration. The Aggies' next 4 games look very manageable, but even though they're favored to win each one separately, the combined chance to win them all is only 22%. Then FPI views A&M as a slight underdog in each of its final 2 games against LSU and Auburn. Throw in those numbers, and the overall prospect of winning out to complete a 9-1 season drops to 3.5%. So there is a chance, but unless the Aggies improve on both sides of the ball, it's not much of one.
He says it's not much of one. Those Aggies going to have their hands full as it is this weekend, hosting Arkansas. For the first time in 7 years, this game will not be held in Arlington. I guess thank you, COVID, for that. The Aggies are going to look for a 9th straight win over the Hogs, but we know some of these matchups, 3 of those have been in overtime. And we know this Arkansas team looks far different than most of those other ones that A&M has beaten. They've got a defense that keeps them in every single game. That said, Roman, what kind of a shot do you give the Hogs of snapping an 8-game losing streak to A&M?
Well, I love what the Hogs are doing. Yes, sir. Believe that. So, and that's because their defense, every week we see Barry Odom come up with a different game plan. I've said that week after week, and he continues to just go out there and put us another performance out there because they make you play left-handed. They're not going to allow Texas A&M to run the ball with Isaiah Spiller, and we know that's a winning formula for them. So what does that do? That puts more pressure on Kellen Mond. They're going to show him blitzes. They're going to back off and play some zone, and that means Kellen Mond has to beat this team with his arm and with his mind. So whatever happens pre-snap is not going to look the same post-snap. That's what Arkansas will do, and that is going to be the advantage for them.
Stanch, what do you see here?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun game to watch because you're talking about 2 of the brightest defensive minds in the entire conference, because opposite Barry Odom is Mike Elko, who is really highly regarded and has had to kind of play shorthanded all season long without his top tackler and down a couple of DBs. But because of that, in this football game, when you point to what A&M has faced already this season, and Brad Edwards outlined it very well, they faced what is one of the top teams in the country, if not the best team in the country, in Alabama. And then they were able to beat a Florida football team. Now, that's the best win among these 2 teams. Take nothing away from what Arkansas has done. They've also faced one of the top teams, or what's thought to be one of the top teams in Georgia. And then they've got that common opponent with Mississippi State, and they kind of both played them similarly. One beat them by 2 touchdowns, the other beat them by 1. But when I look at these 2 teams, when you talk about momentum and all those different things, they came out of the bye week, I think you throw out the window. I think right now it's the A&M Aggies' opportunity, knowing that they could backdoor their way into the college football playoff. You got to beat Arkansas for that dream to stay alive, regardless of what Brad's numbers say.
This is an intriguing matchup. Primetime Saturday night, SEC Networks.
Yes, and for me, I'm going to go with the obvious answer, and that's Sam Pittman. Talking about a coach, let's start from the beginning what he did. Hiring 2 great coordinators in Kendall Browse and Barry Odom, who Barry Odom and everybody just loves to death. And now you talking about an Arkansas team breaking the streak of 20 straight losses within the SEC. Arkansas should be possibly 3-1. We're not going to talk about that right now, Dari. But
you just did.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. But I got to bring it up to the people. I got to bring it up to them. But look, everybody loves this guy, and he has instilled some confidence in the University of Arkansas, and they're going to give a lot of other teams some problems all year long.
I like this because they're playing each other.
There we go. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out this weekend.
It has just been utterly amazing, the resurgence of the Arkansas Razorbacks. We had Hunter Yurichek on the other day, the AD out there, that told us the story again of hiring the man, Sam Pittman. And now let me bring in my very good friend, Josh Bertuccini, who is the host of the morning show out there in Northwest Arkansas, and it's on all over the state, and everyone goes to Josh for Arkansas Council. I remember talking to you, JB, back when they were looking for a coach, and originally Sam Pittman's name was not mentioned, and then when it was, there was somewhat of a shock around your state. Let's go back to that moment for a second. What was the immediate reaction?
I remember it vividly, Paul, and it's great to be on with you today. That takes me back to last December, before the pandemic, before it all kind of changed. But, it was an interesting process because, as you just said, Sam Pittman was not maybe the top name that Arkansas looked at first, maybe not the flashiest name. And you know what? That's exactly how Sam Pittman sold himself as the next head coach of the Hogs. I'm just the guy who wants the job more than anybody else. I've been practicing for this my whole life, and he's taken this opportunity, Paul, and I don't know how else you would describe it, but 4 games in, it's been a remarkable start for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
So, and this is a fan base. I mean, you've been out there a number of years. I've been able to visit with you often out there at our favorite little Chinese haunt. And, there was so much angst at the end of Bielema and even during Chad Morris. Even the most zealot Arkansas fan never bought in. So, I mean, but through it all, your fan base has been loyal to this program, and now they're finally being rewarded. What's it been like this football season so far?
It's been a breath of fresh air is what it's been like, seeing the struggles on the field the past few years, and you named a couple of the coaches, and I don't think anybody around here in this state is getting caught up in a blame game anymore. It's not about that. It's about changing the narrative about Arkansas Razorback football. And I don't think any Hog fan would tell you it was acceptable what they saw the last few years. This team was the worst team in the SEC. And Hog fans not talking about Hog football in November the last couple of years, I've only been here for 15 years, but I never saw anything like that. So this year it's a different story. 2 wins already. The buzz is back. The passion seems to be back. Folks are excited about their football team again. And I go back to Sam Pittman's personality, Paul. He's so approachable. He's so likable. The guy is charismatic, and he comes across as humble. He has time for folks like us on the morning show, and he's very straightforward and really nice to talk with. So I think there's something to be said for his likability. And right now on the field, the staff he put together is getting some pretty impressive results, too.
And I want to stop for a second because likability is interesting. It's important. It doesn't always ensure you'll win, but Northwest Arkansas, JB, is a different place than maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. I mean, this is a metropolis in many ways of, major Fortune 500 companies. There are a lot of people from the outside that are converging to this area because of the industry, especially Walmart, Tyson Foods, obviously, J.B. Hunt Trucking. So describe when people show up there. It's not like growing up in Knoxville or Tuscaloosa. You're not automatically an Arkansas fan.
No, it's very true, and you've been here enough to know that, Paul. And the folks around here are an interesting mix because the Razorbacks are obviously the passionate local brand, and I would say, you got 75, 85% of still the community in Northwest Arkansas is all in on the Hogs. But as you just listed, that was 4 or 5 really, really big-time Fortune 500 companies who are massive global employers. And so, yeah, folks move into Fayetteville and Bentonville and Springdale and Rogers and the towns around here, and they come from not only Tennessee and Missouri and Alabama and Louisiana, but they come now from New Jersey, Ohio, California has a lot of folks who come here in recent years. So a lot of different allegiances. It makes for a good debate, but the Razorback brand will always be king around here. And like you said, for folks who maybe don't know about this area, it's growing, it's got employment, it's a very livable area. And I think the folks around here really enjoy Razorback football along with everything else in the Northwest Arkansas lifestyle.
Yeah, I've already bought a house here. I'm on my way in a couple of months, and I'm going to be hanging out with you. It really is a great area. I kid you not. Well, let's talk about this weekend, JB, because this might be the most tortured rivalry I have seen in a long time. I mean, countless times over these last 8 years, Arkansas had won, either was on the verge of winning the game or should have won the game in the same result every single time.
Yeah, I thought this interview was going well until you brought up Texas A&M, and then my stomach sank a little bit. So we'll tough it out here at the end. But no, I mean, obviously you're on the money. It's been as painful a game for Arkansas over the last 8 years as any other. Hogs are 0 for their last 8 against Texas A&M, and we're talking about a run that started at the beginning of the Kevin Sumla era and has continued to the present day. And it's just for Razorback fans. Another reason why that bothers them is historically, going back to the Southwest Conference days, Arkansas used to dominate Texas A&M. And the first few times they played with a Southwest Conference non-conference feel in Arlington. Arkansas won those games too. So this wasn't really a back and forth until it became all Texas A&M in the last 8 years. And, obviously you've seen the games like everybody else has. They tend to go down to the wire, exciting football. I thought last year Arkansas, played one of its better games of the year against Texas A&M and fell a touchdown short. So whatever the spread is, and last year I think it was 20, which was ridiculous. This year, I don't remember as of this morning, 13, 14 points. That seems like a lot, because even when Arkansas hasn't been good, and there have been some rough times lately, this game is usually a thriller in the fourth quarter. And on a Halloween night, with Arkansas's defense playing really well right now, coming off a bye week, I think we're in for another great game on Saturday night, Paul.
And let me conclude by talking about what has been accomplished and what hasn't. So certainly, you hear it, I'm sure you more than us, Arkansas should have beaten Auburn. They didn't. I'm sure that was a bitter pill to swallow. But what else have you been able to glean from watching this team through 4 weeks, 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and my brain goes in a couple different directions. The first one is it's a team that is playing for each other. I mean, you hear that almost like it's cliche in sports now, but we saw it again with the Dodgers in the World Series. We see it, with an Alabama every week. When you're playing for each other and you decide that the team is bigger than the individual egos, you got something going. You certainly have something to build on. And I don't know if Arkansas had that the last couple of years. Things got fractured in that locker room. I think some guys were playing for their draft stock. Other guys, maybe didn't even want to be there. I don't think it's like that now. Just being around this team a little bit so far, this is a team that's playing for each other. They're playing for their coach. They really seem like they bought in to being greater than just the individual parts. And the one other thing I'd say early on is they don't make excuses, Paul. You brought up the Auburn game. That was, obviously just a terrible call that did not go Arkansas's way. They should have won the game. But what did Sam Pittman do afterwards? He didn't complain. He didn't bemoan it. He didn't retweet anything criticizing the officials. Instead, he stayed right there in his lane. He told his team, we did the best we could. We got to self-correct. And we've got to do what we've got to do to take it out of the referee's hands next time. And I thought that was a phenomenal move, and his team clearly responded against Ole Miss. So not making excuses, being accountable, and playing for each other, plus 2 SEC wins, has been a pretty awesome first month of the season here for Arkansas.
And by not retweeting anyone, he didn't have to come up with 2.5 million pennies to pay his fine. Speaking of big games tomorrow night, Arkansas and A&M. It's one of the most eagerly anticipated games of this weekend, and Matt Stinchcomb will be on the call. Matt, thanks for the time, and let's get right to it. Arkansas fans are confident. A&M fans maybe a little cocky. Break this game down for us.
Is that A&M is taking it to the next level? They're cocky. Well, the fact that A&M has this outside shot of sneaking into the college football playoff, if they take care of business through the balance of their schedule, maybe a little confidence will come in handy. This isn't the week to be overconfident, though, that's for sure, because when you look at Arkansas, what has fueled their kind of resurgence is not only the mentality that Sam Pittman has kind of imbued into that program, and one that needed an injection of enthusiasm and confidence, but it's been takeaways. The defense has been phenomenal in getting the football back for the offense and denying scoring opportunities for the defense. The Arkansas Razorback offense hasn't really gotten going very well early on in football games, which does not bode very well when you face the Aggies. The Aggies do a great job of starting fast, and if that's the case, not necessarily built well to play from behind. But the good news is that if you're a college football fan, when you look at this matchup, historically, regardless of how Arkansas has been playing of late, 5 out of the last 6 times they've matched up, it's been decided by 7 points or less. A good contest, and to me, this is probably the game that decides who's the second best team in the West Division.
I just want to stop and think about what you just got through saying, and I know it's justified, but the idea that Arkansas is in this conversation is truly shocking.
It really is. I mean, that's the thing that when we've done a couple Arkansas games now. We did the Auburn, Arkansas game. We all know how that ended. And now we've got them again this week, and kind of knowing and observing Sam Pittman as an offensive line coach, and through the years admiring his work. What stands out is talking with other coaches. When we're talking on the other coaches' calls, the coaches at Auburn, the coaches this week at Texas A&M, it's the level of respect that the other coaches have for the job that Sam Pittman's done in such a short amount of time and in unprecedented circumstances. We've talked about it. This preseason was not normal. This is his first head coaching job at the collegiate level, and to do what they've been able to do, not just win football games at Arkansas, but watching Arkansas play in the way that they are playing this season is pretty remarkable. They're playing hard, they're playing tough, and they're being effective, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He's done a phenomenal job, not just with the locker room, but with the coaching staff that he's built, and you can feel and you can hear the respect that he's garnered from his fellow coaches in this conference.
We'll start in Texas, where Arkansas fans think they have a really good shot after 8 losses in a row to the Aggies. What happens here?
You know, it is amazing to think about, because if you look at the rosters, A&M's a double-digit better team than what Arkansas is right now. That's not taking anything away from the Hogs and what they've done. I think they've created a fun environment where guys know what they're doing and they execute very cleanly. Defensively, they're very physical. They fly around and do what they're supposed to do on that side of the ball. But the thing to me is that I look at Texas A&M, they're starting to develop an identity of who they are. I thought against Florida in the second half when they decided to just run the football and put that game on the shoulders of their offensive line, Ainias Smith and Isaiah Spiller, that they figured out that this is their best way to win. And then all of a sudden they come out against Mississippi State and they regress. So the one thing that scares me about really getting fired up about A&M is the lack of consistency that we've seen from them over the years, and particularly the lack of consistency of Kellen Mond. But I do believe that this is a game that A&M will win, but we come to expect a lot of craziness in this series. So I think it's going to be a close game into the fourth quarter, and A&M finds a way to pull it out, but only by a narrow couple points.
Maybe Arkansas and Texas A&M will tell us who is the second best team in the SEC West. They meet in College Station, 7:30 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. First time in 7 years that game not in Arlington, Texas. All right, the Football Power Index says A&M's a favorite in all of its remaining games except the final 2, LSU and Auburn. That might change. FPI gives the Aggies a 4% chance of winning their final 6 games, which is great. I mean, and maybe they will. We can get into that. 77% seems a wee bit high against this Arkansas team that we all know should be sitting at 3-1. With Bumper Pool coming back, with Buster Brown back in that secondary, they're healthy on defense again. What are you looking for in this one?
I'm looking for consistency out of Texas A&M. I mean, you have to look me in the eyes and tell me that you don't have a little bit of distrust for this team as a whole and for the quarterback, because I don't believe if you tell me you do. Yeah. I think we've come to put ourselves out there many times before and been disappointed. This is a perfect game for them to prove that that's not the team they are anymore. This is a very good defense, as Dari alluded to, a very good team as a whole that's playing really well together and playing with a lot of confidence. This is where I want to see them come out and look like the team they did against Florida, as opposed to the way they backed up that win against Mississippi State.
I am on the A&M bandwagon right now. I will tell you that because of what I've seen the last couple of weeks, starting with the Florida game, CD. I think they run the ball much better than I expected them to. I'm going to be honest with you, between Spiller and Smith, this duo may be the best in the league, but the offensive line, CD, is where I see so much improvement. They're physical in the run game. Look what they did to Florida at that one span a couple of weeks ago, where they came out in the third quarter and said, I'm going to take the game over, and they did it against Florida. They protect the quarterback. They've only given up 2 sacks all year. But if you want to know if A&M can make a run, it's going to be the consistency at the quarterback spot, because I don't see the consistency still. I see some really good games like against Florida, but Kellen Mond's going to be the key.
Yeah, look at this. This is an interesting graphic, a bar graph that explains and shows the inconsistency.
Old school bar graph.
It's old bar graph, man. That's what this is. His FPI, or his total QBR scale of 0 to 100, and you see the nice rise. You're all excited after that Florida game, and then it went back down in Starkville to a 42.
Yeah, the thing I think that impressed me the most in that game, Chiz, was that he looked really cool, calm, and collected. You know, going against the Todd Grantham-led defense, you're going to see different pressure as well. They dialed up a bunch of them, and for the most part, the offensive line picked them all up. But in the instances where he wasn't protected, he knew that, and he got the ball out quickly and got the ball out with accuracy. The thing that I worry about right now is who is going to step up in that void that was left by Caleb Chapman's injury. He was developing as a really thorough, complete wide receiver, a guy that could take the top off, but also a dependable third down receiver. I don't know who else that's going to be. Weidermeyer's a stud, as we know. Chase Lane's a young guy coming along. But who else can be that consistent number one wide receiver?
And I think defensively we can't ignore them because they've gotten better over the last several weeks. They got torched against Alabama, but who doesn't? And I think every single week they've gotten a little bit better. And I believe in Mike Elko, and I think that's an ascending defense. Look, they're tops in the league in several categories that matter, and they've played the two most explosive offenses. They played Bama and Florida. So the fact that they're in total defense and some categories like that in the top three, that's not bad.
I will say this, Dari. Of any team left in the SEC, I think they have the best chance to make the college football playoff. Better than Georgia, better than Florida because of that schedule and the fact they probably won't even have to play in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, but is that a good thing? I hear you. But not even playing in that championship. I know it's happened before with teams, but still, it feels like
I'm not buying on that one.
I'm not buying that one.
You'd rather have Florida and Georgia schedule?
No. I said I'm not buying on A&M.
Oh, I don't think they'll make it all the way through.
Okay. Arkansas, their opponent. I know coaches don't like the word culture change unless you're the one that's implementing it, right? But what has led in this coaching staff, with this coaching staff, to the drastically improved play we've seen from the Razorbacks?
You talk about culture change. I think culture change is everything, guys. I think to a player nowadays, it is everything. And you see what Arkansas has done. These guys are having fun, CD. You know why I know that? Because every single week it seems like somebody pops up I've never heard of, and they're extremely productive. Look at the linebacker. Look at what Chase Morgan did. 19 tackles and a pick six. I mean, every week we sat there and said, okay, Rakeem Boyd's out. What are they going to do? Then all of a sudden, Braylon Smith comes in. Where'd he come from? He's productive. When you have guys that are productive, and it's obvious to me they're having fun under Sam Pittman. Now, fun means that we're winning and have a chance to win as well, but you got productive guys that are having fun, they're competing, and then in turn, they have opportunities to win. They're being very well coached, and they're having fun doing it. So I see a culture shift before our eyes, and I'm going to tell you, Arkansas will not be an easy out for anybody the rest of the year because of the way they're playing defense, and offensively, they're doing just enough to win.
I'm all about being honest. Tonight's an honest show. I asked you to be honest with me. I'm going to be honest with all the people at home tonight. This is a situation where we were sitting in the studio last year when Sam Pittman was named the head coach, and we all kind of scratched our head like, what are they doing hiring this guy? Well, fast forward to where we are right now. He's hired a great staff around him. He's acting as the CEO. He's created a fun environment. Everybody's buying into it. Sounds an awful lot like what LSU did a couple years ago, right?
Sure.
And that recipe seems to be working in Fayetteville now as well.
A little bit one of those, okay, you might not generate the buzz you want it to generate, but just sit and wait. And we haven't had to wait long. I mean, this is a drastically improved team. And again, we talk about culture, a little glimpse of that Pittman culture. Tim, let's start with you. We've talked about the Arkansas defense a lot, but I know you watch perhaps a little bit more with an offensive eye. What is different specifically about this offense and Felipe Franks than what we've seen the last couple of years?
Hey, just let me tell you, I watch all three sides of the ball, all right? It's offense, defense, special teams. There's no bias to offense here, man.
I got you. I hear you.
Come on. It's SEC Nation. We're covering every position, baby. We even are evaluating long snappers, my man. Come on.
Okay.
Can't believe we started with that tonight. That's unbelievable.
I do not believe that you could really give a good approximation of what makes a good long snapper, except just somewhere being near the target. But I'm still asking you about the offense.
Well, I couldn't long snap, but I can tell you who runs down the field the hardest, baby. You know.
And it's the long snapper. Okay. But are you going to answer my question about Arkansas's offense, or should I just go ahead and move on over to Roman, or wait for Jordan to pop on at some point tonight? What do you think?
Well, I guess maybe if you want to talk defense, go to Roman. But you know what? Let's get to Arkansas's offense, and I'll tell you, What Arkansas's offense is predicated on is being able to get manageable second and third situations and then being able to also get play actions on the outside. Arkansas takes extremely wide splits on the outside to widen the field, right? So they can be able to create running lanes. I think one of the things that Arkansas has to do a little bit better is get big plays down the field. A few of the ways they've gotten big plays this year is faking screens and a screen and go. But that's not consistent. They can't consistently get that. So you got to find another way to push the ball down the field. When you are in second and third medium, how can you get those big shots, right? Because it's too hard in the SEC to sustain 10, 12, 15 play drives, right? They've had opportunities to really put teams away, especially Ole Miss, and they couldn't do it because they couldn't sustain those drives or find an ability to get big plays down the field.
It's going to be a virtually empty stadium here. That is not going to be the case at Kyle Field in College Station. About 25% capacity, maybe 27,000, 3,500 at midnight yell last night. We're going to play this game here in College Station, obviously. Typically, they meet at Jerry Jones Stadium. As they come into the game, Kellen Mond needs 267 yards passing to pass John Football in total offense. They've gotten production from Isaiah Spiller. You saw Nia Smith earlier. They need to find a wideout with Caleb Chapman hurt. And how about the grit that Arkansas has played with? Grant Morgan, 13 tackles per game, easily the most among guys who played 4 games. Hudson Clark's a former walk-on who had 3 picks against Ole Miss. And in fact, Arkansas, they have 10 interceptions. They lead the nation. They sort of epitomize the way Sam Pittman's given them a little identity.
It's been awesome. It's been fun to watch. One of the best stories in college football. You got to put him up there for SEC Coach of the Year currently. I know that sounds really crazy to think about, but
from where they were,
their run defense today is a different story. Now, their run defense has struggled a little bit, but can we look at A&M's schedule, by the way? Like, don't blink, by the way, because we're going to do the ranking shows on Tuesday nights, and if you look over the next couple of weeks, I mean, you got Tennessee, you got Ole Miss, you got South Carolina, you got Arkansas, like LSU, Auburn. So is this team a one-loss team at the end that we're pointing to, and maybe Alabama's in the SEC championship game, and you're looking at A&M going, are they in the playoff?
Right.
I mean,
right.
I'm not saying.
Right. I hear you, man.
Think about that.
Well,
it's crazy.
It's either a gauntlet or it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jimbo Fisher's looking at it as an opportunity. This game, the matchup itself sets up like a competitive game. Arkansas doesn't give up the big play. Barry Odom, talking about the Frank Broyles Award, maybe Assistant Coach of the Year, he's got to be in the early going, a guy you got to look at, the job that he's done with that defense from where they were. They're not giving up big plays. Here comes A&M with Isaiah Spiller and that offensive line. They're going to be physical. Reese brought up a great point. Since Caleb Chapman went down with that knee injury, they're efficient, but Mond has a tendency to get impatient and force the ball. He's got to be patient today. Old school, kind of run the ball, find Weidermeyer, the tight end. It's a close game, I think.
One of the things that's happened is Arkansas now believes A&M still. I know they beat Florida. A&M has not completely shed itself of being able to avoid dropping games. So if the Razorbacks believe, Indiana obviously believes now. Teams need evidence, and much of the recent history for programs like that, particularly Arkansas and Indiana, is that they find excruciating ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which leads to the never-ending battle to change the culture. Look, if you watch a coach's introductory press conference and play a drinking game and have to take a shot every time the coach says, we're going to change the culture, you're going to be in the bag before they pose for photos at the end. But coaches have to keep saying it, to believe it, to speak it into reality.
Get there, get there, get there, get there, get there, get there.
It's always about the mindset. How you talking to yourself right now?
How you doing? Good. Our message has been every day, everything matters. We're trying to set a culture that we're Arkansas, we ought to win football games.
Turn that down, What's our one word for this week? Focus. Relentless focus.
We got to get better. We won a big game, but we made a lot of mistakes, and we got to improve from week 1 to week 2.
Elite preparation creates what? Elite performance. That's why what happened on Saturday night happened the way it did.
And they're saying he is in, and Indiana pulls this off in overtime.
You stepped up and you finished.
that's probably been the most gratifying thing in the 2 wins that we have, is that the kids are able to be proud of being a University of Arkansas football Razorback.
That one is intercepted again.
I want to give this man the game ball, his first win. You're going to your special group. I said it. Oh, man.
Station, the site of Texas A&M and Arkansas, and this one can always be crazy as well. Of course, these two old foes getting back in action together. So let's talk about them. The A&M has won 8 straight against Arkansas. That doesn't tell the whole story, though, guys. 5 of the last 6 meetings have been decided by a single score, kind of similar to that LSU-Auburn series, with the Aggies overcoming fourth-quarter deficits in 4 of those victories, 3 games going to Auburn. Let's get to Lauren Sisler with more.
Hey, Laura, 2020 has had its fair share of unique challenges and situations, and tonight is no different. This is the first time since 2013 these two teams won't be meeting at a neutral site. And I'll tell you, Texas A&M is taking full advantage of it, as is the 12th man. I talked to some players earlier this week, and they said there has been no shortage of energy and enthusiasm inside Kyle Field here. And really, at 25% capacity, 27,000 fans will show up. And I'd have to say it really showed up against Florida just a couple of weeks ago when Texas A&M really hit its offensive stride. So we'll see how that plays out tonight against Arkansas, a team playing with relentless effort and great confidence right now under new head coach Sam Pittman.
Thanks, Lauren. And she mentioned it, Tim. Kyle Field was pretty crazy in that Florida game. Very loud, it sounded like, on TV. So certainly something that Felipe Franks and this Arkansas offense is going to have to deal with. The conversation so much around this Arkansas defense, which has been quite good. But what do you need to see still, Tim, from Franks in the offense?
Yeah, Elle, you're exactly right. Everybody wants to talk about Mon versus the Arkansas defense. And the Arkansas defense will keep them in the game. But to win the game, it has to come from the Arkansas offense, right? You can't count on 3 to 5 picks a game and one being a pick 6. This Arkansas offense, for them to take the next step, to not just be competitive, but to be really good in the SEC, they have to take that step. It has to come from Felipe Franks, from this offensive line getting a running game going, from the receivers making big-time catches just like that. But there has to be more consistency. They've had the chance to put people away, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't do it against Ole Miss. They couldn't do it against Auburn. And that's why they're 50-50 in those games. They won one because they were fortunate to get enough picks. They lost one, even though they probably should have won because the refs kind of crushed them on it. But the offense has to take over. If they do that, this Arkansas team takes the next step.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jordan, because I think when you look at the scheme of this game, something that, A&M has done really well, or at least wanted to do really well, and maybe hasn't quite been as good as they should have been, is something that might give them an advantage against Arkansas's defense. Tell us more about that.
Well, Laura, they got to run the damn ball, right? I mean, Kellen Mond is much better when this running attack is going in. Isaiah Spiller is averaging the most yards per carry in the SEC, so continue to feed him. But I've been impressed with this Texas A&M offensive line. I mean, they're playing as good as I've seen through the run game, opening up holes for Isaiah Spiller. You saw it against Florida. That was the reason they won that football game. And when you face Arkansas, they want to play a too-high zone. They're good in that too-high zone. Barry Odom has them dialed in. You get them out of that by running the football. Get him into single high so you can get some favorable looks for Kellen Mond on the outside. But think about this. Texas A&M gave up 65 sacks in 2018 and 2019. Just 2 so far through 4 games. This offensive line is protecting Kellen Mond. Part of it's because they're running the football better. Part of it is because they're just better. Second best sack rate in the country. So that's been the improvement. Run the football, get him out of too high, and let Kellen Mond continue to operate from a clean pocket. It's a recipe for success.
You want me? Okay, good. I didn't know if Laura was ready to go, and me, I'm ready to jump in because I'm about to crush you right now,
sometimes
Jordan.
we don't know where we're going on this show, but we're going to get that fixed. Go ahead.
I'm ready to go because I got something for Jordan.
Go.
Jordan, this is the best defense that Kellen Mond will see all year long. Arkansas is very multiple. Week in and week out, we see Barry Odom come out there and have a different play, a different scheme no matter who they play. They are going to make Texas A&M pick the ball up. They will have multiple fronts, stunts. They will have lots of movement up front with their D-line, changing the gaps, make it really hard for Texas A&M to have success running the ball. They will put more pressure on Kellen Mond, so now he has to make tougher throws throughout these zones on 2nd and long and 3rd down positions. And now you're going to have to say they're going to have to beat him with his arm and with their mind. So I'm going to show you something pre-snap, and I'm going to play a completely different defense once you snap the ball and make you figure it out. And see if Kellen Mond can actually do that. Because according to Tim Tebow, he ain't done that yet.
They've been good. Roman, they've been good on the back end. They're also 11th in the SEC against the run. And, oh, by the way, the last 2 games, they've given up over 240 yards in each game on the ground. So this run defense
that's because
is not
they knew that wasn't going to beat them.
Yes, they are in coverage.
They knew that was not going to beat them. They knew that was not going to beat them. It wasn't going to beat them.
But it did.
Yeah, but no.
But it did.
But it kind of did. All right. Hey, Jordan, I want to throw up. Listen, Jordan, I want to throw up A&M's schedule right here because it's pretty interesting. If you look at FPI and their remaining schedule, and listen, there are some tough ones down there at the bottom potentially, but these could be winnable games for A&M. I mean, are we looking at an A&M team that could run the table from here on out, maybe be a 9-1 team by the end of all that?
Yeah, look, with Arkansas, it's going to be a slugfest, but you move down that schedule and you're like, there's not a game you think they're out of, and especially at the end of LSU and Auburn, those are games that I feel like Texas A&M can win. Obviously, we'll see how LSU and Auburn are at the end of the season, but they could absolutely run the table and be in the conversation for a college football playoff spot, being 9-1 with their only loss to Alabama. Look, I know we're getting into fantasy land here, but let's just leave it here. They're going to be competitive. They might be favored in most of those games, and they're going to have a chance to win each and every one of those legitimately. So it could get exciting.
So everyone keeps loving talking about Sam Pittman and Arkansas now. And listen, not a lot of people saw this great Arkansas team coming, whether you were paying attention or not. But either way, I think we should have seen it coming. Sam Pittman, a guy who's infused immediate energy into a program that needed it. Here's exactly how he does it. Sam Pittman wired.
There's a reason your O-line, he's faster than you. You're going to decide that you got a good O-line. At some point, you're going to have to decide. He can't decide it for you. I can't decide it for you. At some point, you're going to decide you can do that every damn rep. But somebody's going to start fast. And that's a goal of the week.
So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, members of the media, our new head football coach, Sam Pittman.
Our belief is that we're a hard-working, blue-collar, tough, sick-'em football team. We're going to pride ourselves on our toughness.
The throw left, and that one is picked up, and Arkansas denies Georgia.
The biggest thing that I wanted to do was hire great coaches, great teachers, great men. After that, we wanted to make sure that we were fair and truthful with the kids. Don't let him hit that corner without pressing.
Franks to the end zone. Touchdown, Warren. Floats it, and it's going to be intercepted. The losing streak is over, and what a win for Sam Pittman.
To say I'm proud of you guys, understatement. You do everything that we've asked you to do since we've been here. Everything. Do we believe?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, baby. Good win. Turn that damn juke.
Franks to the end zone, and it was caught for a touchdown. 6-1, it's intercepted again. Greg Morgan, touchdown, Arkansas.
Our defense made so many big plays. I'm wore out, and I never even played a snap. I'm so tired. We're trying to set a culture that we're Arkansas, we ought to win football games. I want to stand up for the Razorback Nation. I want to call the damn Hogs as a team. You ever been any place like it in your life? Ain't nothing like Arkansas. Who don't want to be a part of it? I do.
Hey, Trace, Arkansas and Texas A&M Hogs haven't been able to beat the Aggies as SEC opponents. Can they do it today?
No, I think the Aggies pull it out again, playing at home. Kellen Mond's going to be able to put up enough points to beat the Hogs today.
So many close games between the two, but everybody believing that Jimbo. Oh, but Kirk's saying close.
Arkansas A&M. Jordan, who you taking?
I got A&M. Look, I think they pick back up where they left off, running the football. Something Arkansas has struggled to stop the last couple of weeks. So I got Texas A&M in a great game, though. It's going to be a thriller, as always.
Well, I'm going the opposite. I'm going to Arkansas. I've been on the bandwagon before anybody else on this show, and you're going to have to call the National Guard to get me off of it, baby. Arkansas today, let's get it.
Hey, Roman, go ahead. Jump on your bandwagon. I'm going A&M. Downhill running game. Let's go.
Suddenly, they've won 2 SEC games. First time this rivalry's been on campus in 7 years, and the crowd could be a factor at the home of the 12th man. Let's go down to the field in Lauren Sisler.
You know what, Taylor? I'll tell you, I've been in a lot of stadiums this season during this pandemic season. Big stadiums and small stadiums, but none quite like this. Welcome to the home of the 12th man. They know how to bring the noise, and it comes in numbers. We're at 25% capacity tonight, which is equivalent to about 27,000 fans in the stands.
Powerful offense, captained by Kellen Mond.
Hezekiah Jones, the receiver's in the game for the first time in 2 years, but it's back to the ground, and Spiller will have no place to go this time, 57% of the time so far this season. This is a 3rd and 6 for Mond. And over the middle, it's incomplete. He hasn't had Rakeem Boyd out there much this season, but he has him to start the game. And Boyd, the former A&M Aggie, with a first down run.
Check on play 1.
It's a 10-yard pickup, fake to Boyd, over the top, and it's complete underneath.
They fixed that now, and it's obvious. You can see Rakeem Boyd feeling it early.
And a fake to Boyd. Franks keeps himself. Franks breaking tackles inside the 35, and look at this extra effort.
And a great read. You see the collapse, and they arc release Hudson Henry. You see 82.
There's a 2nd down and 9 inside the A&M 30. Franks on a design run again.
It's able to get into their tempo offense, and right now Kendall Briles is a play caller in a nice rhythm.
9th play of the drive. It goes to Boyd again. Boyd with a burst of speed inside the 10, down near another first down for the Chains. 1st and goal Razorbacks from the Aggie 6. Franks throws to the end zone, and it is caught. Touchdown. That's Traylon Burks.
All week long, Sam Pittman talked about starting fast. You can't do it better than this. And Felipe Franks throws an on-target pass.
Again, 1st and 10 now for Mond. And he's got Spiller in the backfield. He will, on the option toss, elect to keep it himself. 35-yard touchdown strike. After the Razorbacks score first, Mond was perfect. 4 for 4 on the drive with this strike. Now on a 2nd down and 7. More traditional I formation look, and it's Spiller hard running.
And the job that he's been able to do so quickly at Arkansas.
On a 2nd down and 2, Traylon Smith goes past the 40-yard line. When something good happens, and after wins, he says, turn up that jukebox, as Franks turns it up on a pass to Burks. It's really the walking the walk part is the thing the players seem to love most, as Smith stays on his feet on the 1st and goal, just outside the 6. Spiller now. Very little. Finishing it off with this acrobatic touchdown. Franks tosses it to Smith, and Traylon gets past the 30-yard line.
And he staggers forward.
3rd and 10. Franks, and that's a catch made by Mike Woods. Looks like maybe just short.
He's back in that lineup at center, number 51. As Arkansas seeks to try to convert on this 4th and 2, and does the 12th man impact their ability to change the play?
Home run ball caught inside the 20 to Burks.
How about that execution? You keep your offense on the field, they get over the ball quickly. But then Franks changed the play again at the line of scrimmage.
Franks quickly throw. And that's a catch by Blake Kern.
Figuring prominently in the passing game for the Razorbacks.
No time to think about it or review it, and instead, touchdown Tyson Morris. What a job by Felipe Franks in the offense.
You see the Aggies, look at the numbers. They got one defender in the frame. Great awareness by Treylon Burks.
Well, they've scored touchdowns in their last 3 possessions, and Mon will try his receiver Jones, and Isaiah Spiller and the Aggies having one heck of a first half, 4 consecutive touchdown drives.
Seen a lot of different things. Arkansas moving the football well. Also, I mean, look at this, and they're getting contributions from the quarterback position.
It's Boyd back in the game, and Boyd with that carry. Now Franks will load up down the field, and it's Burks tangled up, and a flag comes down.
You see O'Neal working in the slot, yeah. There's a good reason why there was only Aggies in the picture. They held Treylon Burks again in the slot.
Look at our first half stats, brought to you by Zaxby Stench.
Now you look at it, I mean, it's highly similar stats, right? And you talk about the contributions we've seen from the quarterback position.
And he goes to the ground, and Rakeem Boyd, who's been good tonight.
Franks did a great job, at least gaining yardage that time.
A little quick throw past the 30 to Henry. This from 34. And this one is good. He's gone over 100 in all the wins. He's going backwards here, as that was snuffed out by Julius Coates. 26 yards to the redshirt freshman on that play. They toss it ahead to Smith. And he won't get much there as Boyd, first down for Arkansas.
Not just in protection, but in the run game as well.
2nd and 10 after the incompletion, and that's underneath.
You expect him to kind of waddle around, instead he ends up getting a carry.
28-yard run, and then a strike.
Showed up in bowl prep one day and decided he wanted to try linebacker. Has proven to have a real nose for it.
A strike to the end zone to Burks again, his 2nd touchdown.
Buddy Johnson in coverage on Treylon Burks. Safety over top. Look at that ball from Felipe Franks. I don't think we've seen a single ball in jeopardy. Hasn't needed to be.
Stutter step by Spiller. He'll lose yardage on the play. And this is a quick throw that's caught by Devion Warren, who gets around the edge. Runs the play clock all the way down to 1. And Spiller.
Which only means what? There's like a 3rd cup in the package or what? Because the cups don't get bigger, do they? If it's a king size peanut butter
yes,
cup?
they do. Oh, yeah.
But you can crush those fun size Snickers and it's like nothing ever happened.
I'm gonna have to find how I can buy a whatchamacallit. Felipe Franks trying to finish with something positive here as Boyd goes all the way to the end zone. Touchdown.
Waste the opportunity to improve in a lot of ways. Here's the counter game. Never really got it going great in this one, but they did get number 5 going. Rakeem Boyd, far and away his best performance of the year. And they saw some of that pop, I think, that they were looking for out of him. The 9th time in his career where he's gone over 100 yards.
We continue our SEC whip. A&M hosting Arkansas. Kellen Mond, man, he's having a good season. Anais Smith.
He's got some weapons. Anais Smith, a guy that can play running back and wide receiver. And Jimbo Fisher's doing a great job finding different ways to get this guy the football.
Ties it at 7. Second and goal from the 6-yard line. Mond to Jalen Weidermeyer.
I agree with you on Kellen Mond. Let's get Todd McShay here and find out why Kellen Mond has fallen outside of his top 5 quarterbacks as far as the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Kellen Mond's playing well, though.
Mond is playing well again to Weidermeyer for the touchdown.
He's only a true sophomore, and this guy's been one of the best pass-catching tight ends in college football early in his career.
How about history there? Mond passes Johnny Manziel for total yards in Texas A&M history. 9,999 and counting. Texas A&M now 9-0 against Arkansas since joining the SEC. But was it enough to get in to Joey and Jesse's top 5? 42-31 the final.
Sam Pittman in Arkansas, Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. Razorbacks on opening drives this year, kind of a little hidden fact, have not been very good, but not necessarily on this night. Felipe Franks. Felipe getting involved in the run game, right?
He had remember that long run he had against Texas A&M when he was at Florida?
I do remember. Yeah, he does like that. And then Franks throws, Treylon Burks, touchdown, and Arkansas takes the lead on the road.
He is their go-to guy. You find him in the red zone. He's big. He's 6'3", 230. Throw the ball up, let him go do it.
How does Kellen Mond come back? How about the oh-so-versatile Anais Smith touchdown, just like that, tied up?
He's an amazing athlete. I'm going to tell you, he's tough enough to be a running back. He's skilled enough to be a wideout. And this dude does nothing but make plays. He'll run you over. He'll run around you. Guy's special.
And then, yeah, Smith again, 15-yard run, 14-7. Kellen Mond drops back. Jalen Weidermeyer. Big catch.
How about the tight ends in this league?
There's so
much
many
fun to watch. Weidermeyer stepping up, a couple of touchdown receptions for that guy.
Indeed. And then Mond throws, hits, Weidermeyer, touchdown, 21-7. 3 straight scores for the Aggies after our Razorbacks looking for another big play. Franks connects. Tyson Morris make that Burks again. 36 yards. 2 plays later, Tyson Morris touchdown.
That's where you see Arkansas not going away right now. They keep battling back. Every time Texas A&M scored, they tried to answer early.
Look how much time he has in the pocket, though. That is what, to me, was the biggest separator. Texas A&M's offensive line giving Kellen Mond time to throw the ball and feel comfortable in the pocket.
Yeah, Weidermeyer was certainly Mond's favorite target on this. Look at this
flag. Is that not a flag?
We all said the same thing.
Gronk has spiked it less hard than that.
28-17 your score. Mond again, strike, touchdown. Weidermeyer, A&M. Yes, they give up the first points, but they respond beautifully. Weidermeyer and Mond. And by the way, with that pass, Mond passes Johnny Manziel for the most yards of total offense in Texas A&M history. He's up at 10,000 plus now, 42-31. The Aggies get the win. Mond, 3 touchdown passes.
I thought we played really well, and I think we're really balanced both in the pass game and in the run game. And I think big thing we were able to convert on third downs and keep the chains moving. So that was something that we knew going into the bye weekend this week, playing Arkansas, and we were able to execute.
So your name now etched in the record books. You have now eclipsed the 10,000-yard mark on total offense for a quarterback. What does that mean to you, Kellen?
It's special. I just think back all the days, just putting in a lot of work with so many great leaders and Christian Kirk and Travion Williams, and then now just look at my growth, and I couldn't thank my teammates and coaches enough.
One thing I thought was a kind of a stat that maybe didn't jump out. Arkansas led the league in forced turnovers, 13 of them coming in. A&M didn't turn the ball over, so Kellen Mond was effective as a passer, but also took good care of the football.
I'm willing to trust again, Chiz. I told you I've trusted before and been burned by Kellen Mond and been burned by A&M. I'm willing to dip my foot back in that pool because of what I saw. It looked a lot like the performance we saw against Florida. Extremely accurate, protected the football. They ran the ball well. And to your point, Roman, that offensive line has become the strength of this Aggie offense. I think they have an identity that they can continue to roll through the rest of that schedule with.
And this is the Texas A&M that we all anticipated at the beginning of the year. They're bringing back 8 starters on both sides of the ball. All right, you had some opt-outs, but this A&M team had a slow start against Vanderbilt. They did not look like this. Nobody was buying into what they're doing. And you look at this team now, they're building momentum at the right time. They're getting hot at the right time. And that matters. Going down the stretch, feeling confident, putting up points, Kellen Mond playing the best ball of his career so far, and also being told that from everybody else. That does something for you. I like where this Texas A&M team is headed.
Yeah, Jimbo's going to be very pleased with the offensive performance because what do you always hear him talk about? Physicality.
Yes.
I thought they were physical today. Yes, it did start with the offensive line, but I'm going to tell you what. You take Spiller and Smith.
That's the guy.
These dudes are real. Do you know that they'll put them both in the backfield and then Spiller will become the blocking fullback? That's how tough this dude is. This guy will run downhill. He runs for tough physical yards after contact. Anaya Smith, you can put him anywhere.
Yeah.
You want to be a wideout? It's dealer's choice. You want to be a wideout? Be a wideout. Oh, you want to be a running back? Be a running back. He does it all, and every time he touches the ball, he's extremely explosive. But like you said, CD, the key is the dude throwing the ball, and he was excellent today. He was on scrambles and runs and out of the pocket. He was accurate. In the pocket, he was accurate. In the red zone, accurate. Yeah. Third downs, perfect. Today was a very impressive offensive performance.
They hit the road next week as A&M. They go to South Carolina, Arkansas, home for Tennessee. Chance for Arkansas, maybe a kind of a get-right game after losing this one, and one that Tennessee is going to need desperately given where they are right now as a team this year.